Massachusetts schoolteacher Lisa Ziegert has been abducted and killed. For 25 years, investigators tracked down every lead and even used the latest technology to create a composite sketch of her killer. The composite narrows down their suspects, but when troopers attempt to collect DNA from their remaining persons of interest, one man appears to skip town.
And at that point, put him on our radar much more significantly.
Then the very next day, Massachusetts state troopers get a surprise visit.
Someone walked into a state police barracks and provided us with some information that was very compelling.
It's potentially explosive evidence in the form of letters. And the writer? None other than the man who is currently MIA.
I read the letters, and at that moment, I called the district attorney, Anthony Galone, and we thought this might be our guy.
He purportedly hand wrote a series of notes that amounted to his confession and responsibility for the killing of Lisa Ziegert.
If true, police have a confessed killer on the loose, and they have no idea what else this seemingly desperate and dangerous man is capable of doing. Right away, cops issue an arrest warrant for their suspect and alert surrounding law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout. They also give a heads up to the Ziegert family that an arrest could be imminent.
The police really wanted to share with us, but they had to be very careful with what they shared. What we knew was this is the best lead we've had since the beginning of the investigation, and we're sorry we can't tell you more.
Hours later, the fugitive is spotted outside of Massachusetts, and police close in.
He was tracked down to Connecticut, where he had made some efforts to commit suicide.
The man is treated for a failed overdose attempt and arrested, awaiting extradition back to Massachusetts. Meanwhile, investigators get a search warrant and collect the suspect's DNA from items found at his home. The sample is sent out for comparison against the DNA of Lisa Ziegert's killer, and after years of waiting, it's just a matter of hours before the lab results come back.
I remember that moment very distinctly, and it was a very short email. I can remember seeing the word match underlined.
The next morning, the Ziegerts get a knock on their door, one for which they've been waiting a quarter of a century.
And it was the DA, the chief of police, oh my God, head of the detective bureau, and they sat us down and said, we got him. We got him. And it was like a cold wash going over you, and then a flush, and then a, really? Are you sure? Because over 25 and a half years, we've had lots of looking good.
Investigators explain they have a written confession and DNA match.
My immediate thought to myself was, wow, this is finally it.
It was literally unbelievable in that after that amount of time, you know, statistically, it was virtually impossible that this was ever going to happen. And then it did.
But exactly who is Lisa's alleged killer? The DA calls an urgent news conference to reveal once and for all the man's identity.
Today, I am informing the public that the search for Lisa's assailant is over. Last Friday, September 15th, an arrest warrant was issued from the Westfield District Court for Gary E. Shara, age 48, of West Springfield, Massachusetts, which charges him with the murder, aggravated rape, and kidnapping of Lisa Ziegert on April 15th, 1992.
It was probably one of the strangest moments I've had in my life. Looking at the face, a picture of the person who had done this to our Lisa.
After 25 years, being able to have a name and have a face to put with the anger that I had about my sister's killer, I was feeling like at least I had a focus now.
And it turns out the local residents' worst fears were realized.
He's been among us. He's been in the community.
The suspect grew up in the neighboring town of Longmeadow, only 5 miles from Lisa's hometown of Agawam.
He had been married and went through a divorce around the time or just before the murder. He has one child. That child is now adult.
And according to recent news reports, Gary's ex-wife, Joyce McDonald, told relatives at the time of Lisa's death that she thought her husband was involved. Sadly, no one took her seriously because she was battling alcoholism. And what about a likeness to the earlier composite?
I wasn't ready to see his twin, and I didn't. For me, it was more important with the picture to eliminate people as opposed to identify people.
But do they recognize the man who allegedly murdered Lisa?
I had never heard the name Gary Shara before the news conference. I had never heard of this person.
Lisa's friend, Ed Borgatti, who lived the past 2.5 decades under a cloud of suspicion, is also present at the press conference.
It's a feeling of incredible relief. A friend of mine summed it up perfect, and he said for 25 years, he said, you woke up 70% Ed Borgatti, and he said, and today you're 100%. And I appreciated that, and that summed it up.
Ed Borgatti is owed an apology by every person who slandered him and had a mean and horrible comment to say about him.
While the news conference is underway, Massachusetts State Police troopers pick up the suspect from Connecticut and begin extradition back to Massachusetts. And as they make their way across Route 5 South End Bridge connecting the two states,
There was a line of traffic, and there was bumper to bumper, and people in the community knew that we had him and we were bringing him back. As we're going through that traffic, people were literally putting their hands out the windows of the cars, fist bumping that. And so it felt good. That part of it felt very rewarding to all the troopers and the local officers that were involved in this.
There's a bit of excitement and joy about the prospect of this being something real. But there was a lot of caution, too, because there were some false alarms in the past over many, many years.
the news media gets wind of an arrest, and cameras are recording as a police escort arrives outside the Agawam police headquarters. It'll be the first time the community will get a glimpse of the man who terrorized their small town all those years ago. Then, the moment everyone has been waiting for.
Gary Shara.
Gary Shara enters the court to be charged with Lisa's murder.
On April 15, 1992, in the town of Agawam, you did commit murder, aggravated rape, and kidnapping.
The Ziegert family is in court as he enters a plea of not guilty. It is the first time they have seen the man who stands accused of killing their Lisa.
I'm bordering between that angry and that that feeling that you're numb and you don't have any feeling.
But for the Ziegerts, this trial is not about the man who allegedly murdered their daughter. It's about justice for Lisa.
Your life will never be the same, but bringing the person to justice, at least that's something you can do for them.
Joining me here in New York now is the producer of the story you just watched, Karen Dabrowski. Karen, thanks very much for being here. We've covered a lot of crime stories together, but this one, knowing the victim, investigating the story, that has to be difficult.
It is. Thanks for having me here too, Chris. It was difficult because I actually went to school with Lisa. I graduated a year before her, and it was really hard not to have it affect your life. I remember the day my mom called to tell me she was missing, and then days later that she had been found. And for the past 25 years, it's kind of haunted all of us, and it's really sad. It's tragic.
What kind of an impact did this have on the small town in Massachusetts called Agawam?
I think for Agawam, where this type of thing doesn't happen, it was very hard. I think in the beginning people were afraid. Was this a serial killer that came into town? Was this somebody that she knew that was still living amongst us? And I think for years to come, people just wanted answers. They just wanted to know what happened.
You were recently in your hometown for your high school reunion. I assume this was the talk of the reunion.
Everybody was talking about it, Chris. I think everyone wanted to know why this happened. I think now that they had a name and knew that the killer was behind bars, I think at this point everyone wants to know why it happened. Did he know Lisa?
Shara lived within miles of the victim's family for years.
I think that's what makes people so angry, and I think he watched as the family kept looking for her killer. He watched the vigils happen, the fundraisers, and then he watched Ed Borgatti go through this cloud of suspicion that he actually did this. That's evil. That's really messed up, and it angers a lot of people.
Karen, thanks for your great reporting on this case. I know you'll continue to follow the story as Shara heads to court. And of course, we'll bring you the very latest right here on Crime Watch Daily. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.